to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How are you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. Some of us really from 2020, from the pandemic, we've really been able to move into living our ultimate lives because we've reached that point. The matrix has fallen, beloveds. There is absolutely nothing to lose but yourself, which is the most precious thing you could possibly lose. Everything is being done to keep you stuck, to keep you inactive, to keep you in fear, etc., etc. And it's up to each and every single one of us to recognize the seriousness, the seriousness of the moment, not to be waiting for any savior to come for you, but to get, to save yourself, because the confusion is in your own mind and the clarity must also come from your own mind. And sometimes, because of the law of vibration, or not the law of vibration, but the law of correspondence, where as outside, so inside, as above, so below, we have to be so careful with the things that we are allowing into our environments, etc., etc. And so we have to really recognize the fact that our minds have been weaponized, beloveds. They've been weaponized since we were children against us. And it starts with speaking, the oppressor's tongue. It starts on that level. And a lot of people have said, why don't you start speaking Kiswahili? Why don't you start speaking Kikuyu? But how will you understand me? The message has to get to the people. So you have to reach the people in the language that they understand. But we have to move to where future generations will not dream in the oppressor's language, but they'll dream and imagine and see, the future for themselves in their own tongue, So the most important thing to recognize in this hour is that the fact that your mind has been weaponized against you. It started with language. Then it started with, being given a foreign god and foreign ancestors to follow, to worship. Then it started with, then it continued with an education that actually dumbed you down, because we are supreme beings. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And most of our education, how much damage is done to children when they're put in a classroom in literally a coffin, and they're made to, and they're literally made to recite things that gibberish, basically, because there's nothing their language. The education is a slave education that entraps you, that creates all these limitations and indoctrinates you to fit into the matrix so that the matrix can continue. And so from your education to the stories you've been told about your ancestors, to the stories you've been told about your motherland, where you're from, your home, all these things, the obscurity in your identity, and then all these stories that continuously mash us up. It's all created a weaponized mind. And then all the things, the distractions and the attractions, which are all lower vibe, like sensational experiences. All of those weaken the spirit. So when the spirit decides to stand up and move forward, it becomes quite tricky, because the mind will now be activated to do everything it can to remain in the matrix. And there are many different things that have been done. It's almost like, before they used to do MK Ultra, which is like a mind control system on the celebrities, the leaders, so that they would fall into line, mainly the celebrities, etc., etc. But now they're doing MK Ultra on entire societies, beloveds. They're doing this on entire nations, because people's minds have been weaponized against them. There's so much jargon and gibberish and movies and, all these crazy things. Because if you think about it, beloveds, We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. That's how many thoughts are going through our mind. But we're only truly aware of like 2,000 of those thoughts. So there's like programming running in the back. Imagine if your mind is a computer, a high level computer system, right? And like there's all these programs running in the background. 90% of the things that are influencing you are you're unaware of. Because the world is first and foremost mental. And your spirit uses your mental to create this reality. But there's so much that has been programmed in us subconsciously that many of us are still in denial of. I mean, I get shocked when I hear my fellow Africans saying, "Oh, come on, colonialism is over." It was two generations. It was my grandmother's generation. It was not a long time ago. And so these are the things, beloveds. We have to realize how much our minds have been weaponized against us. Because a lot of people reach out and they're like, "How do I start changing?" You have to start it just starts with the deprogramming. The minute you want to get out of the matrix, you'll be so hungry for knowledge and information. You'll really want to, you'll want to go deeper and deeper and deeper into what this is all about. And all that does is it starts to remove the muck that has been put on your mind. And the problem is, it's not just your mind that has been weaponized against you. So you think wrongly, if I can say that. You even speak wrongly. That's why I released a video where, people are constantly jinxing and cursing themselves, and you can't even help it. Because people will say, "I am so sad." And then, and that's the state you then walk into. But you see all these things because of all these complex ideas and really just, mumbo jumbo that have been fed into us. Things as basic as that whatever I'm thinking, I'm becoming, becomes quite hard for an overactive, overstimulated mind to get its head around. And so we have to respect the seriousness of the fact that our mind has been weaponized against us. That if we start to ask the right questions, fear will check in. A fear that is totally unreal, but it's just like all these little traps have been set in us. So what do you do with a weaponized mind? You take away the ammunition, beloveds. That's what you do. You disarm it so that it stops being, it stops working against you and destroying you. So that you de-weaponize it so that the true spirit, your true mind, can take over. Because it's all about, we're all coming into alignment right now. And so, how do you de-weaponize your mind? You start to get out of the matrix. I mean, if you're still watching movies and TV shows and football and local news and all this stuff, then really you're giving your mind ammunition to work against you, to give you the wrong concepts, because you're giving it the wrong, you're feeding yourself the wrong ideas. So all you can produce are the wrong strategies for your life. So you have to turn off all these screens, beloveds, because the screen is the illusion and the screen is the mind control. And you have to now start to go deeper. Quiet the mind, spend some time in contemplation, see what those other, 68,000 thoughts are about. Tap into that, because all the power is in you, but you have disempowered yourself by not reigning in your mind. Anyway, let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Welcome back, beloveds, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? You know, we are in a very serious time and serious hour where we find ourselves at a crossroads, beloveds. Many of us who have been here several times, because I keep saying we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So we have taken on human vessels several times, and you have to wrap your mind around that and really understand that, because that is a point of power. That is a very important key that will help you to see yourself properly. So when you realize that we're spiritual beings, beloveds, having this human experience, and you start going into the history and her story and what's been going on, all the different stories and narratives that are out there, you will start to recognize that we have been at this crossroads as humanity several times. And every time we approach this crossroads, some of our people made it and some of our people don't. Don't you wonder about the civilizations that just disappeared just like that? What if that was some kind of, they reached the crossroads that we were at right now, where you either fly or continue in this death society, where they had to reach a certain level of overstanding, understanding, and understanding so that they could, I don't want to use the word ascend, but so that they could elevate, because there was a separation that would happen, a very mystical separation. And many, spiritual people, seers have been talking about how the worlds are splitting. There is a new earth, and then there's this prison planet that is going to continue to self-destruct, but it will take many souls with it. So we all find ourselves at a crossroads. But the problem is our mind has been weaponized to work against us and make sure that we don't make the right choice, because we can't see the right choice. We've not been taught about even how to critically analyze to make the right choice. We've not been provided with the right information. And then when you think of the programming, because, the Babylon system, slavery and colonialism and all this stuff focused so much on capturing our minds. It was never about, the land. It was never about colonizing and calling it, that's why they called it Kenya and all Tanzania and Zambia. That was the idea of that. But it was all about capturing our reality, capturing our minds, and totally flipping and creating this whole world where we were sucked into theirs. And the only way they were able to do that is they got our minds and then they turned our minds against us. And so in our fight for liberation, we are working with a weaponized lower mind, beloveds. But we have the capacity and capability, if we tap into now our spiritual and we override this mind that is more like an animalistic mind. It's there to just help us, with the day-to-day, but it's been overstimulated and, given too much power. So for us to kind of move out of that, we have to recognize that the mind has been weaponized and remove the ammunition. Get out of the screens. Reduce your time on social media. Reduce your time watching movies and stuff. Instead, I know it's easier to do that, but instead start reading as well, because reading stimulates a different part of your mind. Spend more time in nature. Orient your life into doing something with your hands, instead of if your life has to be in front of a computer or in front of a screen, then you should really be looking for something that you can do, which is more with your hands, etc., etc. Many of us who, have been highly favored and chose ourselves at a time like this are busy building our own homesteads, building our own necks. And so we just have to slowly get away from all the language and ideas which are like triggers that the Matrix has created, and start to create our own foundational narrative, our own foundational story. Create different, stop overstimulating that mind and allow the spirit man to come forth, the mind of the spirit man to come forth. Because you are so much more powerful than you realize. But if you don't recognize what has been done and what you're dealing with, you can't get out of it, because it's all mental. So you have to get out mental, because you got in mentally. They got you mentally. So you have to escape mentally as well. Anyway, thank you for joining us again on Wake Up Africa. Until next time. Tuko pamoja.